Okay, this is the fifth time I have recorded this using a fourth platform to record, so I really hope that this one works. But this is my nonverbal communication presentation, so we're going to be going over some of those methods of communication. Okay. So, what is nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication is the way that people communicate without actually communicating with their words. So, it's like facial expressions, hand gestures, posture, eye contact, physical distance between others, and there are many other ones, but we're just going to be talking about those. So, what can nonverbal communication do? Well, nonverbal communication is important to support, clarify, or altogether replace spoken word. It's also key to conveying emotions. So if you're really confused on how somebody's feeling, you don't know if they're happy, you don't know if they're sad, you don't know if they're upset, speaking to them in person, you can kind of pick up some context clues as to how they're actually feeling, regardless of what they're saying. One of those big ones is facial expressions. So, facial expressions allow people to communicate emotions quickly and universally, help reinforce or contradict spoken words, allows others to gauge feelings and intentions, and often is the first nonverbal cue as to how somebody's feeling. So, if they're sad, if they're angry, if they're happy, you can normally tell by their face. Some examples of that would be smiling to show happiness or friendliness, frowning to express disappointment, raised eyebrows to show surprise, or furrowed brows to indicate the confusion or concern. Another one is eye contact. Eye contact shows attention and active listening. It builds trust and confidence, regulates the flow of conversation, and can communicate interest, honesty, or dominance depending on the conversation. And some examples of this is maintaining eye contact during a conversation, looking away when you're thinking, avoiding eye contact due to nervousness, or rolling your eyes to express annoyance. Another big one are hand gestures. I use my hands to talk a lot. I'm a very expressive individual. Hand gestures add emphasis and clarity to spoken messages. They can replace words entirely. They help express enthusiasm and emotion, and they often vary between cultures. Some cultures speak a lot with their hands. And some examples of some hand gestures are like thumbs up for approval, okay sign for letting someone know that you're fine, waving hello or goodbye, pointing to give directions, heart hands for the show of love, or shrugging your shoulders to say, I don't know. I know you kind of can't see that because of my face, but shrugging your shoulders to say, I don't know. Posture is a big one as well. It reflects confidence, interest, attitude, shows engagement, disengagement, influences how others perceive your credibility. If you're not looking confident, you're probably not going to be seeming very credible. And it can communicate openness or defensiveness. So, an example of good posture is standing tall with your shoulders back to appear confident. If you were walking in somewhere and you were trying to tell somebody that the sky is purple and you looked all sluggish and in on yourself, probably not going to believe you. But if you walk in with your chin held high and your chest out and your shoulders back, they might listen to what you're saying. They might not believe you saying that the sky's purple, but they might listen to what you have to say. Another example of posture being a nonverbal communicator is leaning forward to show interest. Crossing your arms to appear defensive or closed off. It can also be like a body language sign. It's like, hey, I really don't want to be here. You get your arms crossed across your chest. And slouching to show boredom or fatigue. A big one, I know personal space for me is huge. I'm not all up in anybody's bubble, especially if I'm not comfortable with you. And I really miss the COVID 6 foot perimeters that we had in public. Personal space communicates relationship and comfort level. is a nonverbal indicator. It helps establish boundaries. The different distances can convey the different levels of intimacy. Like you're not going to be super duper close face to face with a stranger. And your expectations can vary by culture. Some cultures are very touchy, lovey-dovey, and others are just standoffish. Um, so personal space examples would be hugging a close friend, standing several feet away from a stranger, moving together, or moving closer during a private conversation, and stepping back when someone stands too close. Anymore. Yes, many other things can be nonverbal communication, like your appearance, your time management, physical touch. If you are consistently late to work and you just cannot be on time, no matter how hard you try, you are telling your boss that your job is not the most important to you. Without actually saying that you don't care to get there on time. And it is the same way with your appearance. If you show up to a job interview in pajama pants, you are not portraying that you really care enough to have that job. You're showing that, hey, I showed up, but you did not take the chance to look halfway professional for the job interview. So you're telling the interviewer that you don't care. So yeah, just a couple of little things to think about whenever you're conversating with someone, confused on how they may be feeling. Actions do speak louder than words sometimes, and sometimes the way that your face and everything else is saying more than your mouth. All right. Thank you guys.